Club football is back. And with club football being back, it means I'm back as well. I know you're going to say, you've been gone since the 30th of September. I know. But what did you think I was going to do? Talk about Belgium versus Italy? Belgium versus France? Malta? England versus Greece? I don't care about all that. International break, that's not my scope. I don't do that. I don't even think I watched a single international break game. I took this time to recover, because the videos are going to keep on coming. Champions League is back. Leagues are back all over Europe. It's going to be a fun time. But if you're new to the channel, what are you doing, right? There's over 90% of you who are not subscribed to the channel and you're watching every video. What are you doing? You don't lose anything. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share with those you think would be interested. But if you're new, welcome to another episode of the Football Fanatic, in which I talk about the most important and interesting topics to me in the world of European football. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Real Madrid and how they came out 2-1 victors over Celta Vigo, and a few things that I found pretty interesting about the way they've been setting up. They've not been good so far this season, but maybe you're starting to see a few good things come out of Carlo Ancelotti's men, as well as their biggest rivals, Barcelona, my club. You know I was going to talk about Barcelona. With the El Clasico impending, I thought this was the perfect time to talk about the two teams. Let's get straight into it. Of course, coming into this game against Celta Vigo, Real Madrid knew that they had to win. They have to keep on winning to keep the pace up with Barcelona, especially after dropping points against Atletico Madrid. And coming into this game against Celta Vigo, it was always going to be a tough game. Celta Vigo had been in very good form all season, and I felt like coming into this game, it was a potential banana peel for Real Madrid. But knowing Real Madrid in all the years that I've watched football, I knew that they would probably come out on top. But even despite them winning the game, there were a lot of interesting things that I picked up, both positive as well as negative. I mean, come on. I gotta watch what the rivals are doing, especially with the El Clasico coming up. And the first thing that I want to show you guys is just the lineup coming into the game. And from here, from this screenshot, it looks like your typical 4-4-2 from Real Madrid, the way they've been setting up all season. Apart from the beginning where they had Vinicius, Mbappe, and Rodrigo all starting at the same time, which just was not working. So now they reverted back to that diamond formation that they were playing last season. And I feel like to an extent, you're starting to see a bit more from the front two especially. But at the same time, I do think there's a lot of negatives to the system. But in this game in particular, Real Madrid didn't set up in a 4-4-2. In actual fact, they actually kind of matched their opposition in Celta Vigo, who I'll show you right here. They actually set up in a 3-4-3 with Manquillo at the back as well as Marcos Alonso. Very familiar faces, how the mighty have fallen. And they set up in a 3-4-3, which meant that Real Madrid themselves, I don't know if this was a ploy by Carlo Ancelotti due to the team they were playing, or if it's something that he's going to do moving forward. Because on one hand, I felt like it had a lot of positives. But on the other hand, there's definitely a lot of negatives that I think if they were to come up against better opposition than Celta Vigo, all due respect, they could be in for a world of hurt. Now, this first screenshot here shows you the average positioning, essentially the average positioning of the players that Real Madrid started the game with. 19 seconds into the game, you saw what it was that Real Madrid were trying to do. Their fullbacks pressing high up the field, occupying those high, wide areas in Lucas Vazquez, as well as Fran Garcia down on this left-hand side. You had that midfield three of Valverde, Camavinga, and Jude Bellingham. And surprisingly enough, Aurelien Tchouameni tucking into that central center-back position, sort of just falling back from his CDM position, taking a position about 10 yards deeper than where he would normally be, allowing Vinicius and Mbappe to be that front two. Mbappe coming shorter to receive a pass in this situation here. And one of the positives that I saw was that this formation essentially created a bit more balance with Real Madrid. Any of you who have watched Real Madrid this season, and I have been hesitant to make a video on them because the way I believe is that Real Madrid throughout their entire, at least the time I've been watching football, they've never had tactics. They've never really had patterns of play. They've never had a style of play. They kind of just go out there and say, Inshallah, and, vibes. Vibes, we have the best players in the world, and let's hope something sticks. They did it pretty much the entire three-peat, as well as the year they won it with Benzema. Even last year, it was vibes. So for me, Real Madrid don't have tactics. They just have good players that bail them out of problems time after time after time. And in this game, it was no different. But in this game, I felt like Mbappe, who has not been good for Real Madrid so far, you started to see him occupying places that you want to see him in, actually dropping deep and interacting with his teammates. Fran Garcia was so good in this first half, always bombing forward, as you can see here. And Vinicius and Mbappe were interchanging. Sometimes Mbappe will go to the left, Vinicius will go central. And I think that's what Real Madrid fans want to see. They don't want to see Mbappe staying as a striker because that's not his game. But they also don't mind if players are moving in and out, exchanging positions and being dynamic. The problem before was that these guys were basically just standing still, hoping that one or the other would buckle and move out of the way rather than playing amongst themselves and communicating as they did in this game. On the right-hand side, we talked about that balance. Jude Bellingham was essentially operating as a right winger in a sense in like the half spaces. We'll get onto him in a second, but it just gave Real Madrid a lot more balance. And from what I saw, I liked a lot of it. But of course, life isn't all sunshine and rainbows. There were a lot of negatives as well with this system, and that's why I asked the question, is this system set up to play against a team like Celta Vigo because of the way Celta Vigo is set up, or is it something that Carlo Ancelotti is going to do moving forward? And I know we make the joke that Carlo Ancelotti has no tactics, but he tried to use tactics in this game, and it worked somewhat. But this screenshot here shows you, this was actually a cross from Militao that then led to a counterattack for Celta Vigo. But the reason I want to show you this is just I want to show you kind of the lack of understanding of the system, I think. That's why I asked the question again. Is this something that Ancelotti had planned just because it was Celta Vigo, or is it something that he's planning on implementing against Barcelona, Dortmund, and so on in the season? Because you look at this screenshot here, and I move it on again. Celta Vigo win the resulting second ball, and they've gotten the ball, and it's a counterattack. But I just want you to look at the positioning here of Aurelien Tchouameni and Antonio Rudiger. Now, I know Real Madrid are the team that they're on the front foot in this game. They should be the team that's expected to win this game. They should be the team that dominates the ball and dominates possession. But for your two center backs to be in these positions, that doesn't make any sense to me. And I feel like it has to do with the fact that maybe the players don't really understand the system. Aurelien Tchouameni in this game was pretty good, but I thought at times you kind of saw that misunderstanding of where he needed to be in certain situations, maybe because he's not familiar with this positioning. But you move it again, and this is the sort of thing I'm talking about. By Rudiger and Aurelien Tchouameni being that high up the field, Militao was basically by himself 1v1 against Borja Iglesias. And for some reason, Lucas Vazquez completely let the Celta Vigo man go, and this leads to a 1v1 that somehow this guy missed. How he missed it, some of you will tell me Courtois is an incredible keeper. Yes, he's an incredible keeper, but for you to miss a chance like this, I was sitting in my house laughing because I've seen this story, I've watched this movie, I've read this book. Real Madrid will make you pay. And that's exactly what they did. But not only did Real Madrid have problems in the fact that their players were pressing way too high up, but also the way in which Celta Vigo kind of counteracted what it was that Real Madrid were trying to do. I think Celta Vigo were very quick to understand what it was Real Madrid were doing in the game, and they were figuring out ways to kind of play out of Real Madrid's press time and time again. You look at this situation here, the Celta Vigo man comes towards the ball and drags out Aurelien Tchouameni completely out of position, leaving space for number 33. He receives the ball, and Borja Iglesias is gone. He's made an incredible run into the space, but he's not being found because Camavinga lunges in and it forces the man to go back rather than play the ball forward. He would have been offside, but that sort of run, that sort of positioning, that sort of threat against a better team, alarm bells are starting to ring. You look at the situation here. The CDM receives the ball, comes deep, plays it out wide. And then this is another example of the misunderstanding I'm talking to you about. Fran Garcia goes up to press the ball because Bamba has come out wide, the right forward in this formation, essentially. And by him coming out wide, it's dragged out Fran Garcia. Look at Antonio Rudiger's positioning. Look at Militao's positioning. Again, I don't know if it's a misunderstanding. Maybe the players aren't too familiar with the system. But for your defensive line to be curved like this, I'm sorry. This is Sunday League stuff. And Borja Iglesias was gone. And he created a chance that was eventually sniffed out by Real Madrid because they have elite center backs. But again, against better opposition, alarm bells, they're going off. And I think the thing that was most damning about this setup from Real Madrid was just the numerical overload that Celta Vigo had in the middle of the field. Of course, you know that double pivot that they have in Fran Beltran, and the other man's, his name is escaping my mind right now. But by having those two in there, it was essentially those two against Camavinga and Valverde. And Valverde in this game, he was poor. But I don't blame him. The guy's been playing 90 minutes for about 3 months now, every single week. And in this game, Jude Bellingham was also fighting for his life because Vinicius and Mbappe are not tracking back. So when you have that sort of numerical overload, especially when you have Bamba coming inside, you have, I believe it was Willot coming inside as well. You have 4 players against 2 in there, against 3 in there, especially when Tchouameni is having to drop deep. They're making runs that are dragging Tchouameni out of position, dragging Camavinga out of position. And this next screenshot is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Here, for some reason, Real Madrid decided to press the ball high, and you expect that. But what I would expect is that if my left winger, my striker, my right forward in this formation and my two center midfielders are bombing forward, that should also mean that my center backs push forward. If not, the press doesn't make any sense, because then you're looking at all this space. I don't know if this space is for the referee. I don't know if this space is just so they can have. I don't know who this space is supposed to be for, because inevitably Celta Vigo take advantage of all that space. And this is a perfect example and an illustration of how this game was. It was back and forth. It was transitions. It was a basketball game. Players were running up and down, charging into duels, charging into tackles. This game, there was no control. There was no control. A typical Real Madrid game, I always say this, Real Madrid do not control football matches. They don't. They never have. They never will. They rely on individual brilliance. And it's not a negative thing. They have the best players in the world. But goodness me, in this game, I don't know what Carlo Ancelotti was trying to do. It had its positives. But I also think the players are not too familiar with the system, so there was a lot of misunderstandings, just like in this situation here. And of course, it goes on to lead to a 3v3. And again, I know it's Celta Vigo. And Celta Vigo in this game, my Barca side is going to come out right now. Celta Vigo in this game completely missed about like 3 clear-cut chances. They missed about 3 or even 4 clear-cut chances, and they could have killed this game a long time ago. How Real Madrid won this game, hey man, that's football heritage. But for me, the biggest alarm bell and the most notable thing in this game has to be the goal. And again, I bring up that point about familiarity with the system, familiarity with the formation and where players need to be. Carlo Ancelotti, is this something for the long term, or is this something that you're just implementing now? And for me, this goal is a perfect example that these players are not fully up to tune with what this system is supposed to do. Also, credit to Celta Vigo, because their players in this game, their movement was off the chart. They were incredible, always moving in and out, rotating with each other, and just creating chaos wherever they could. Their CDM receives the ball here. I believe this Fran Beltran plays the ball out wide, and Bamba's gone. He's gone. But I want you to look at one person in particular, Aurelien Tchouameni. Now, in the first half, it looked as though Tchouameni was playing as a center back alongside Rudiger and Militao. But in this situation here, you have Aurelien Tchouameni playing as a central midfielder. Now, that's perfectly fine, but it's not fine when you're playing against a team like Celta Vigo who have 3 attackers. At all times, they have 3 attackers: Bamba, Iglesias, and Willock. So for you to have 2 center backs against those 3 attackers, of course you're going to have a numerical overload. And that's what eventually happens. Beltran plays the ball out to the right back. Bamba plays the lovely 1-2. And look at how much space Willa is in. Look how much space he's in. And this explains it perfectly. You have Bamba here, you have Iglesias, and you have Willa. Lucas Vazquez needs to be a lot more tighter to his man. I'm sorry, but he has to be a lot more tighter to his man. But that's where you ask the question to Tchouameni. Is he supposed to be here, or is he supposed to be here? Ancelotti, who's at fault for this goal? Because the defensive positioning of everyone in this goal is abysmal. Completely and utterly abysmal. And it's an easy finish for Willa in the end. But I look at it again. In this system, it has a lot of positives. Don't get it twisted. I feel like the attack is a lot more balanced. I think they are able to control games a bit more. Celta Vigo are a very good team. Don't get it twisted. They are one of the most informed teams in La Liga. But defensively, and also Rudiger had a terrible game. I think this is just one of Rudiger's worst games, but the defensive setup was horrible in this game. Just horrible. And Celta Vigo should have really made them pay. But as Real Madrid always do, and as I've said it throughout the video, they will find a way. If you don't kill them, these guys will kill you. If you don't kill them when they're on the ground, they will kill you, because they will come back and they will find a way to beat you. And Luka Modric comes off the bench. And there's no real tactical insight here. I just wanted to include it because Luka Modric, man, come on. This guy's a gem of a footballer. Comes in here, does this lovely little fake pass as though he's passing to Mbappe. And you can see it in the positioning and the body positioning of this defender. And Luka Modric, he understands that, he sees that, and he knows what he has to do next. You move to the next slide. The defender is completely bamboozled. It's opened up this gap, just a huge gap in their defense. Completely opened it up. Luka Modric doesn't even do anything. He hasn't even taken a touch. He hasn't even done anything incredible. Just a little fake. Opens up the space. Vinicius drives into that space. This defender attempts to play an offside trap rather than just running with him. Why? I have absolutely no clue, even though he's very clearly far. He's definitely the last man. Why he's trying to play an offside trap, nobody knows. Vinicius gets played through. He's then raising his hand up to say offside, like he's not the last one who was there. Like he knows damn well he failed that offside trap. So I don't know why he's raising his hand to say offside. Vinicius scores, and Real Madrid win. Right? I told you I've seen this story before. And with Real Madrid, with this system, it's going to be very interesting to see whether they implement it in the next game against Dortmund. Because I look at someone like Jude Bellingham. I mean, I said I would talk about him. Jude Bellingham, I saw a lot of conflicting notions online. I watched the game. I didn't think Jude Bellingham played well. Now, if you think I'm a Jude Bellingham hater, that's on you. I don't think he played well. He worked hard, but I don't think working hard is synonymous with playing well. I don't think working hard and playing well are completely codependent. You can work hard and have a terrible game, but I don't think he had a good game. And I don't think it's his fault. I think the system really lets him down. A lot of the Real Madrid players didn't really play well. There were a lot more flashy moments between Mbappe and Vini. You start to see that connection click. But I'm looking at this system, and for me, you need Arda Güler in this system, man. You need him. I think he offers you something completely different than nobody in Real Madrid's attack offers you on that right-hand side. Of course, Rodrigo can play on the right, but Rodrigo's a left winger. I think Arda Güler just offers you something different, something completely different. And I think Carlo Ancelotti, if he is going to continue with this system, you need to have Arda Güler in there. So going into the El Clasico, it should be very interesting to see whether Real Madrid continue with this or revert back to type. Now from Real Madrid, we move over to top of the league. Now, top of the league for now. Who knows what happens after next week? Let me not say too much, but top of the league for now. And we're enjoying it, okay? Barcelona won 5-1 against Sevilla. Honestly, this team continue to impress me, man. Right? Hansi Flick is changing my life. Honestly, Hansi Flick is changing my life, man. This team, every time I look at a game and I think, okay, that could be a tricky game. That could be a hard game. That could be a game that we probably just get by about a goal or two, and then we win 4-1. We win 5-1. We win 5-0. We win 4-0. We win 7-0. It's ridiculous. But I wanted to touch on two things when it comes to Barcelona and kind of tied in with the El Clasico game, as well as the Bayern Munich game. Of course, we beat Sevilla, and I expected us to beat Sevilla because Sevilla have not been good all season. Yes, they're led by a very good manager in Garcia Pimienta. They're strong defensively, and they're a very tough team to play. But I expected us to win that game, especially being at home. 3 points was always expected. Performance was incredible. Gavi made his long-awaited return. Wow. That almost brought a tear to my eye, man. It almost brought a tear to my eye to see Gavi back. And wearing the armband too. Things are looking up for Barca. But the two things I really wanted to talk about is one, Hansi Flick's high line, and two, Pedri Gonzalez. Now I'll start with Pedri Gonzalez because Pedri Gonzalez is the thing that keeps me breathing. You know, I wake up every week and I smile. I wake up every week and I have a smile on my face. My heart is warm because I know that Pedri Gonzalez plays for my football club, right? This guy is incredible. He's incredible. And a quick shout out to Marc Asado, who continues to go from strength to strength in this team. But Pedri, man. Hey, man. I told you guys, I've been saying it. If this guy's not injury prone, if this guy steers clears from the injuries, this guy is top 3 midfielders in the world. I'm telling you, he is, man. He's dynamite. He's one of those players that you can't quantify what he does by goals or assists or by, key passes, even though he gives you all of that. But he's just so silky. He dictates the game. He can control the game. He knows when to quicken it up. He knows when to slow it down. He's so good on the eye. He's got a finish in him. He can create a final third pass. He can drop deep between the center backs and bring the ball out of defense. Hey, man, what can Pedri do? Just a ridiculous footballer. But tying into the entire team as a whole, and Hansi Flick, I was having this conversation with my friend, and I strongly believe that what Hansi Flick is doing at Barcelona is very, very impressive. Granted, it is. But I feel like this week is a huge week. Bayern Munich and Real Madrid. Let's see how you perform in the big games. Let's see how your system performs in the big games. Because for me, the system is a very, very big point of discussion. That high line that we continue to play. And today we conceded against Sevilla in a game that really and truly, I think we conceded 3 goals, 2 of them being offside. And I know it's a tactic, playing a high line, playing on the halfway line, being risky, high risk, high reward. But for me, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for you to be playing like this. I remember a few years ago, Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool used to do this, where they would consistently catch teams offside because they were playing such a high line. And for so long, the point of call from Jurgen Klopp was, oh, well, we have VAR, and if it's offside, it's offside. And eventually you start to see teams not being offside and taking advantage of that high line and punishing Liverpool game in, game out. And for me, once teams start to figure out Hansi Flick's system, when teams start to understand the way Barcelona play, which is why for me a league title is always the better indicator of whether a team is a better team, because you play every team home and away. You play every team twice. They play you the first time, they know how to set up against you the second time. And I'm looking at those second 18 games of the season, or is it 19 games of the season, where everybody's already played you. Everybody knows how you play. Everybody knows you're the best team. Everyone knows you're the team to beat. How are they going to set up against you now? How are they going to line up against you now? Are they going to take advantage of that high line? And I look at a team like Real Madrid, with Mbappe, with Vinicius, with Rodrigo, with Valverde, all those runners in their team. Is a high line the best thing you want to be doing? I don't think it is. Now, I'm confident in my team. I don't remember the last time I was confident for an El Clasico. We'll see. The Bayern Munich game, of course, comes before that. Should be interesting to see how we line up against them. I saw Bayern Munich against Stuttgart, and first half was an even game, but I don't know what company told them at halftime. They completely blew Stuttgart out of the water. But it should be interesting to see what Barcelona do against Real Madrid, what Hansi Flick does. I don't think he's going to change anything. I doubt he's going to rest on his laurels. Hopefully it works out, but I don't think it's sustainable. If any of you guys are Barcelona fans, let me know what you guys think. Do you think what he's doing is sustainable? And if you're a Real Madrid fan, hey man, I give you guys your plaudits. I also give you your negatives, same way I did with Barca. So I'm not a biased fan here. Let me know what you guys think about Real Madrid. Do you think that this team can actually improve? Because from what I'm seeing, it's been pretty mediocre stuff from Real Madrid all season. Nothing really to write home about. Incredible group of players, average performances up until now. But of course, if you guys enjoyed the video, let me know all your thoughts down in the comments section down below. If you're interested in this sort of content, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that post notification bell so you never ever miss out on a video. But thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to be coming out with much more. El Clasico weekend is coming up. Champions League 2. Stay tuned.